Hi, this is Carmen, DeVito garden designer in New York City. Today we're going to talk about bulbs, spring bulbs, all the different kinds that I plant, how to plant them, a little bit how to use them in the garden and why they're so valuable. When I did my first video during COVID way back in April, my garden was in pretty much full bloom for spring. So I'm planning and planting now for next spring, which seems like a lifetime away, but it'll be here before you know it. So let's get into the garden and talk about bulbs. So this is my garden bulb plan for 2020, which is really actually for 21 because this is when these are going to bloom. I've ordered lots of different kinds of bulbs. Alliums, which are in the garlic family, 3 kinds. Tulips, 4 kinds. And a couple of types of daffodils are Narcissus, Iris, Mascari, and Crocus. And this is a sneak peek in the next video, some ones that I'm going to force inside. So I'm going to show you each one now, what they look like and how to use them. So these are tulips, and basically a bulb in general is a storage organ. Inside this tulip is everything that the plant needs to grow. The stems, the flowers, the roots, it's all there. Generally speaking, where you see the root here, the flat part is the bottom, and this is the tip. So I like weird colored tulips, so I just got a few of each. My garden is filled with bulbs, so I'm going to put all of these in containers. And you can do these in containers if the containers are big enough. They have to be at least 18 to 20 inches in diameter and height. Now the narcissus. Here are the narcissus. These happen to be small. They come in hundreds and hundreds of varieties. I like the kind of small ones. And here you can see the root and the tip. And these usually come back every year and the squirrels don't bother them, so I have more of these in my garden than anything else. And they tend to bloom earlier than the tulips. And now we have iris. This is a type that I've never grown before. And this one is a little trickier to tell which way is up. But again, you can see the root here, and this is the pointed tip. And like so many bulbs, getting them into the ground is relatively easy compared to other perennials. You only need to dig about 2 or 3 times the height of the bulb and a little bit wider than the bulb. And the soil needs to be nice and loose and free draining, but also rich. Now, I'm going to turn to alliums. I have a lot of these in my garden, but I don't have this type. This one's called the drumstick allium. Look how small it is. So how do you tell the top? Well, see here the little root again? That's the bottom. So you want to plant them with the roots down and press it nice and firmly into the soil. And I got 3 kinds of alliums here, types that I don't have. Now here is a bulb that's one of the earliest to bloom, and these are crocus, and they're so early that they're already sprouting. So it's pretty obvious which end is up. These can bloom as early as February. So when you plant these, you want to plant lots of them. Like this is about 100 of them in this tiny little bag. So I'm going to put these in containers and even maybe in a few small spots in the garden that don't have plants, because there aren't that many left. And finally, I have Grape Hyacinth, also a very small early bulb. They come back and they spread. This is the top, and this is the root stem. These are beautiful purple flowers in early spring, and they only get about 10 or 12 inches high. And then these I'm not going to touch because I'm very allergic to their outside skin. These are actual hyacinth, and these I'm going to force indoors. I'm not going to put them in the garden, although you can plant them in the garden. So now let's get into the garden and I'll show you how exactly to plant them. So here in the back garden, I'm going to demonstrate 2 planters that I'm doing with 2 different kinds of bulbs. In this planter, which is larger, I'm going to plant a larger bulb. I'm going to put this tulip Grand Perfection, and in this little container, which has less soil, I'm going to put the crocus. And I'm going to show you how to space them and plant them properly. You don't need, the soil's so loose, I don't even need this, but if your soil's a little stiffer, you can use a tool. So I just use my hand and twice the height of the bulb and make sure it has good contact. And I usually space them, the bigger bulbs like this, a couple of inches apart. And in terms of the patterning, I want it to look nice and full when they bloom in the spring. So I kind of follow the shape of the planter. This one's round. So I kind of go around and I do a circle spaced out about a couple inches, nice and deep. These are very popular with squirrels, so I have to put them deep enough so that they're not likely to dig them out. This is about 10 bulbs in this like 16-inch container. Okay, and I don't put any fertilizer. This soil is pretty rich. And actually, these tulips at the end of the season, I'm going to throw them out. And then on the surface, to help discourage the squirrels, I'm going to put hot pepper flakes because they love to dig in my containers. So sometimes I have to replant them because the squirrels got into them. So I kind of work that in because they lick their little paws, and then when they lick this, maybe they'll be reminded that it's not a good idea to dig in here. And then, importantly, I put some mulch. Mulch is just a covering for the soil to help retain the moisture and keep temperature a little more consistent. This container will probably freeze, but that's okay for the bulbs. They've got enough insulation around. And then I'm going to water it once, and then that's it. So now this, in this little planter, which is not deep enough for tulips to grow over winter here, I'm going to put these crocus. And I'm going to put lots of them because they're really, really small. And that's the beautiful part of bulbs, is that they don't take up a lot of room in the garden. And they bloom so early, you can then plant later. So I'm spacing them out. These I can put closer because the smaller the bulb, the closer you can put them because they really are miniature. And I'm going to do the same thing with these. So you get the idea. When I'm finished, these will all be planted, and then it'll be mulch. I want to show you what we're going to do in the front garden, something called the layered planting. And I did a little drawing just to show you so you can visualize it before we actually do it. So in a container that's at least 7 or 8 inches deep, you can do multiple types of bulbs with the largest on the bottom, medium in the middle, and the smallest on top. What I'm going to do up front in my big container that had annuals, I'm going to do tulips, daffodils, and crocus in 3 layers, almost like a layer cake, and it's called layered bulb planting. And you can do that even if you don't have a garden, because you can do it in a container and then put it in your fridge to do an artificial winter. So follow me to the front and I'll show you how it's done. Now I'm in my front garden and I'm going to demonstrate layered bulb planting in a container. In this container I had annuals all season, so I cleaned them all out, and I'm going to plant 3 layers of spring bulbs. The first layer is tulips. These are fringe tulips, so you put the largest bulbs first. I'm going to plant them, make sure they have good contact with the soil, and I'm going to space them out about 2 to 3 inches apart. Like this. And this planter is big enough, deep enough so that they won't freeze. Then I'm going to add some more soil, at least another inch or 2 of soil. Like that. Because the next layer of bulbs has to grow in that amount of soil. Okay. That's about 2 inches. Now I'm going to put in narcissus or daffodils. These are called Caniculatus, and they're really pretty, semi-dwarf. This is the next size. Always put the pointed side up, and this I'm going to put more in there. This is a pack of 50, and I'm probably going to put at least 25 of these, because in a big planter you want a decent display. You usually want to plant bulbs 2 inches, twice the height of the bulb. So if a bulb is about 1.5 inches, you want to plant them 3 inches deep, and there'll be 3 inches of soil on top of this. So I'm going to put all these bulbs in. And these will bloom in succession. So first the top layer will bloom, then the middle layer, and then the tulips. There might be a little bit of overlap with the tulips and the narcissus, but not too much. So you have a long season of display. I already have tons and tons of bulbs in my actual garden, in the ground. So this is just an added bonus in this planter. Now I'm going to add another 2 inches of soil to cover these up. Just leaving about an inch, because the next bulbs that I put are really, really tiny. Really tiny. And they are crocus. They're really small. And I'm going to put almost this entire package here. And I can put them real close. See, they're already starting to sprout. These are going to be the first ones that bloom in early spring or even late winter. So I'm just going to tuck them in like that. Put them all in. This is a pack of 100. So I'm going to put at least like a third of these in here. And you can put them real close together. And this is a mixed color of yellow, purple, and white. The tulips are pink and white, and the narcissus are yellow. And then I have to add a secret ingredient to help prevent the squirrels from getting these, because they will try to eat them. I'm going to add some more soil to top it off. Like that. Pack it in a little bit. Level it out. And then I have to add some hot pepper flakes. That helps deter the squirrels. So I'm going to sprinkle that on the surface. They don't like the taste of that. And that should help them stay safe. And not end up as the squirrel's dinner. Thanks for watching my garden video. The next episode, we are going to talk about winter gardens. We're going to make some gardens using plants that do really well in the winter. So check back in a couple of weeks. If you want to follow me, you can follow me at Goody DeVito. And this winter, I'm going to be launching a new website where there's going to be tons of content, and you can get personalized garden coaching sessions and garden advice. So keep growing, stay well, and see you in the garden.